Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ethan.
And I'm Brian.
And welcome back to our WandaVision Episode 6 podcast review and synopsis. We thank you for tuning in to our video and making sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you can keep up to date with our WandaVision podcast review and synopsis videos. Also, if you haven't watched it already, it's episode 6, gang. But you should go check out WandaVision streaming exclusively on Disney Plus. Oh yeah, and also heading into this episode, this will be a spoiler alert. I don't say it, but we're gonna be talking about spoilers. Spoiler heavy content will be said in this video. And do you have anything else to say, Brian?
No, you summed up the disclaimer pretty well.
Alrighty, not even a hi, Brian.
I said hi.
It's okay.
Wait. Yeah, I said, and I'm Brian. I didn't say hi. Hello.
Alrighty then, we should dive into the plot now.
Yes, we should.
And since that's your expertise of giving us the plot, where do we start off?
Well, in case you haven't guessed by now, it's episode 6. And where does episode 6 start? Well, you get the idea. It starts at the beginning. Alrighty, so this time, you get a very 90s intro with this one, with one of the boys running around with the camera, running around, getting people at all their embarrassing angles, their embarrassing shots.
You're right, you're talking about the title role.
Yes. It's very, again, after the recap. I mean, yeah, the recap. It's just a recap.
Yeah, like all the episodes in his TV show that have recap episodes are basically trying to cherry pick the most important scenes of the previous episode, and then because they're gonna build upon those specific scenes later on in the episode that they're presenting today. That's why TV shows do that. Yep.
So the recap is all stuff that we've seen before. Very 90s intro, embarrassing moments because found footage cameras. One of the boys is just running around getting everybody.
Right.
And this is where we kind of see some of their 90s personas, with Wanda being like the makeup heavy mom and stuff. Like she's a very soccer mom type of person in this episode. And the kids catch her while she's doing her makeup. WandaVision has embraced his WandaVision.
That's the
Vision.
TV show.
Vision has embraced his very dadly persona, as he's just sitting there with a newspaper on the couch. And Pietro is kind of like the cool uncle that like you love to hate and you hate to love.
Right, because let's remember, Quicksilver has made his cameo appearance, the 20th Century Fox cameo appearance in Marvel.
Yes. And now he's here again as their uncle. So again, very 90s. But the lyrics to the intro are where things get really interesting, because if you really look and listen to the lyrics, the lyrics are also kind of summing up the events that have happened in the previous episodes, especially with what's been happening with Vision. Because I'm pretty sure one of the lyrics is talking about how like you just have to go along with it, try not to look too deep into it, things like that.
Oh, that's very funny.
And
if this weren't WandaVision and just a funny sitcom about a witch and a robot, that would actually make a lot of sense within the context, even without it.
Yeah. And we also so that kind of sums up the little theme intro sequence. And then we get into the gist of the episode. When we get into the gist of the episode, another great 90s. It's kind of an 80s thing, but it really happened in the 90s a lot. And that's breaking the fourth wall. Because the two main kids, Billy and Tommy, they're able to break the fourth wall.
Right, it's sort of like that 90s kind of sitcom direction where like these aren't like kind of main characters, but in the same sense they are also main characters, and since they are granted the power via the script of breaking the fourth wall and talking with the audience about the situation of what's happening around them.
Yep. And well, they do have powers. Their powers kind of come into play later on in the episode. With, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I do get their names confused for each other sometimes. So you have to remind me, which one's Tommy and which one's Billy.
I believe because like they've color coded their twins because literally that's what you do as a parent if you have twins, you color code them just to make it easier. So I think the green one is Tommy and I think the red one's Billy. I could be wrong on that one though. I'm actually gonna look it up as you talk.
Alrighty. Well, whichever one's which, I know that one of them is really to the liking of Pietro. Really sees Pietro as a role model, which he's not. He is very much not a good role model. But what are you gonna do? But
yeah,
in the beginning of this
right
episode,
about that, by the way. I was right about that.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
the green one's Tommy. The red one's Billy.
So Tommy is Speed, Billy is Wiccan. Gotcha.
Yes.
Those are their superhero names. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
They're comic book superhero names. I don't know if they're actually going to use those names in the show, but
so the implementation of the children in this show is derives from the comic books.
Yes.
Gotcha.
In the comic books, Tommy had super speed, much like his uncle Pietro, while Billy had more magical capabilities, like his mother. And so, yeah.
Gotcha.
But anyways, in this opening sequence, they're kind of setting up like laying down the groundwork of the episode about how like it's the Halloween themed one and everything like that. And so they're all getting ready to like scare the bejesus out of people, right, but they don't have their like.
If we remember from like some of the trailers of the show before the show released, we got to see Wanda and Vision in their their comic book superhero costumes for the first time. And I was like, whoa, oh my god, wow.
And
so
they look silly.
The context behind it is it's Halloween, so they're gonna go out like that. But it's also funny to me that like I think even the kids mentioned this. Mom, what are you wearing? And I like her answer is paraphrasing here. It's like, I don't know. Exactly. So they don't know why they're dressed like that.
Yeah, and just the way that Vision creates his comic book accurate costume, and the way that they joke about how he looks like a wrestler,
right?
Because he has yellow like gym shorts on, and it's hilarious. But in this opening scene, we get the kids laying the groundwork of the Halloween episode. They decide to Tommy wants Billy to go wake up Pietro, but Billy's scared, even though he says he's not scared. And Pietro wakes up, overhears it, and so then he decides to mess with them because he's the uncle and he's the comedic relief.
Yes.
Because that's all he is. And so he brings in some comedic relief. He makes fun of the kid. He messes with the kids a little bit, has some fun with them, and then that's when Wanda comes down in her comic book accurate costume. And as you were saying, they make the joke of like, "What are you wearing?" And she's like, "I don't know." And then Vision comes down, and when Vision comes down, things get awkward. I don't know if you could feel it, but I could feel it. Of just the awkwardness between Wanda and Vision.
And she was like, why are you wearing that outfit? Thanks for getting dressed up for me. And he goes, there were no other clothes in my closet. So.
And they talk about how he doesn't really want to do it, but he did for her. Because he's still nice. He's still a good husband.
He did have to do it, but that's besides the
point.
Yeah, and also probably like jumping a little bit ahead, because like if we're to go back to the fourth wall breaking of Billy, he mentions that Wanda and Vision, like their parents, they're not just like getting along very well. That's how he phrases it. So basically, I think they're referencing like the scuffle that the two had in the previous episode, and they just decide to like, I guess, like kind of forget about that the altercation ever happened, but to still have the animus towards each other in that. You see what I'm getting at? Yeah.
Yeah, and I also just noticed something, but Billy is also in his Wiccan accurate costume as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Wiccan, just like his mom, had a red cape, and then he wore a blue bandana kind of thing. Which, if you rewatch the episode, you will see him wearing the red cape and the blue bandana.
Gotcha. Alrighty then.
But yeah. So Wanda
And then it's
and
Halloween time, right?
Yeah, Vision then tells Wanda that he's going out, and Wanda's like, "Well, you were, but this is the kids' first Halloween. You're supposed to be there for them and everything like that." And he's all like, "Look, I have to do a patrol because he's still it's kind of a little bit of a callback to episode 2 where like he still is
like they're
kind
still
of part of
the neighborhood watch program.
Yeah, and so he likes to keep tabs on the neighborhood kind of thing, making sure that all those ne'er-do-wells are getting what's coming to them.
Right. Yeah, this is a funny scene, and then happens where, because Quicksilver, he's the fastest thing alive. So basically, when I forgot his name. Tell me his name.
Herb.
Again. Herb. Is that
You're
the
talking
same
about Herb?
dude? Really?
How could you forget about Herb?
I don't know, man. Well, yeah. Herb was basically on the phone getting some intel saying, now everyone's covered in silly string, all the candy is gone, and then literally what he's describing happens on screen, and it's all Quicksilver's doing.
Yep, it's all Quicksilver and Tommy.
Yeah, that was very funny.
This is when we realized that. This is when we learned that Tommy has super speed abilities, just like his uncle.
Yeah. That's the thing about Pietro as of right now. We're not exactly sure why he was put into the show, but as far as we can tell right now, he's sort of like that slapstick comedy sort of character. That's basically what you were describing earlier as his uncle portrayal, and now he's just doing the silly string in the neighborhood type of thing.
Yeah, but as Wanda's talking to Herb, before Herb goes off somewhere else, Wanda asks him where Vision is on doing his patrol, and Herb's like, he's not doing patrol tonight. And she's like, huh, okay. And then Herb goes off to settle business somewhere else.
So why is my husband at my side?
Exactly. And she ponders. As she ponders, we then cut to where Vision is. And we see that Vision is wandering, well, not really wandering, but exploring the edges of Westview.
He's exploring the outskirts of the town.
And as he's exploring the outskirts, as we see him exploring the outskirts of town, we see that the further away from Wanda he get. Now, the reason why I say Wanda and not just the outskirts of the town is because I believe that the town only activates where Wanda is near.
Yeah, I was about to say that too, since a line that Wanda gave in the previous episode where she said, do you really think I control everything in this universe all at the same time? And that kind of actually proves that she can't actually control everyone at the same time. So basically, that's kind of what I call like an animate radius theory. So basically, the closer things are to Wanda, the more animate that they are, which means that the people in the outskirts of the town are the farthest away from Wanda. They are not as animate as the people close to her.
Yes. However, I do think that she can still keep small orders in everyone's head at the same time. For example, as he's towards the outskirts of town, later on, and we'll get to this, Wanda says to the kids, don't go past like a certain street, Ellis Avenue. And when Vision encounters Agnes towards on that street, Agnes is like, we can, like, she's keeping us here. We can't leave, and then we see her turn around. So I think basic orders like that, like keeping everyone there, she can do. She just can't keep everyone active at the same time.
Right. And also,
and that's why.
Oh, yeah, go on.
And that's why everyone on the outskirts of town is frozen or in these um,
repetitions.
repetitive states.
Yeah. Yeah, and then to build off of the Agnes scene that you just mentioned, because Vision just happens to see Agnes in her car right by Ellis Avenue, and so he decides to like have a conversation with her, try to figure out what the answer is to what the heck is happening, gang. That's basically what's happening in Vision's head, because let's remember, Vision died, but now he's back, and he doesn't have any remembrance of anything before Westview, and so basically that's kind of what he's asking Agnes for the answers to. Mm-hmm. And then Agnes can't exactly give him the answers that he's looking for particularly. Is kind of complicated.
Yeah. Which I was going to get a little bit more into that as we got closer to that scene. I mean, there's not much in between that and this.
I mean, we're basically here because remember, these episodes are really short, even though we can talk at least an hour about each one. But, these episodes are still within the 30 to 40 minute range of viewing, which you already knew because you watched it on Disney Plus.
This one is the longest one we've had so far at 37, but again, that is including like 8-minute credits.
Oh, okay.
So this is like the longest one we've had.
Well, then remember, we're Marvel fans. We sit through those credits just to see what's at the end.
But something I was going to mention before we move on is something very noticeable as he's leaving the town is before he gets to the part of the outskirts where everything's frozen, he first sees these this couple in like this not quite glitchy state, but more repetitive state where they just keep on doing the same motion over and over again.
Right.
And as he's watching them, it's specifically a couple. And as he's watching the couple do the same motion over and over again, you can see on the woman's face a singular tear just go down the side of her cheek. That was
the one woman who's trying to hang her towel on the clothespin, but then she couldn't attach the clothespin to it because she was.
Yeah, no, and it's not a towel; it's a ghost.
She wasn't within range of Wanda. You see, oh dear God, Wanda's the Wi-Fi router, gang, and the farther away you are from it, the
slower your connection
the slower
gets.
your performance will be. Exactly.
People on the outskirts of town are just at one bar right now. Yep.
Oh man.
Yep. Wanda and Quicksilver. Then they have the little connect.
Right.
Cutting.
Yeah, cutting from a Vision. We then go back to Wanda and Pietro because I think we forgot to mention at the beginning of this episode, but we're doing the same. We're covering it the same way that we did last episode. Like and subscribe. Where we'll just focus on the one sitcom plot mainly, and then once we get to that moment where both the sitcom plot and the sword plot like kind of meet up in the middle or near the climax of the episode, that's when we'll go back and cover the sword scenes. And that's good. Yep. And that's what we're gonna do here again, because like last time, nothing of much significance happens in the sword plot. It's just more flavor text and world building.
Yeah, there is one thing I want to mention, and that's this episode clearly very prominently takes place in the 90s. But if you look in one of the scenes in the scene where Quicksilver and Pietro and the two kids are walking away from a movie theater, before she tells the kids, "Okay, you guys can go trick or treating by yourself. Just don't go past Ellis Avenue." As that scene is happening, if you look on the at what's playing at the movie theater, you will see two movies. Those two movies being The Incredibles and The Parent Trap.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
What?
Now, The Parent Trap did release in the late 90s. And so that one makes sense. But The Incredibles it was released in 2004. and you're like, okay, this is a 90s episode. Why do we have a movie taking place in 2004? I believe that this could be a little bit of a hint at Wanda losing her grip on reality. I believe. It could always be that, like, the show is just like, you know what? We're not going to give you an explanation. We're just going to be like, this episode is the 90s and the 2000s.
Or you know what? It's just an Easter egg, and Marvel fans are looking into it too deeply.
Dude, everything's being looked at too deeply.
You're telling me.
I saw two TikToks that were just about how in the end credits of each episode, it zooms into one of Vision's eyes. That has to mean something, guys. And I'm just like, it's the end credits. There's nothing.
Exactly. That's yeah, no. That yeah, I don't like it when fans take the Easter eggs of the episode and just like emphasize its quote significance of them, because there probably isn't really much significance behind them in the first place. Yeah. They're just little fun things to, hunt and find. That's why it's called an Easter egg, gang.
Yep. But that's so then after that little scene happens, that's when we get back to Vision. Vision then gets rid of his comic book accurate costume, goes into the MCU costume, flies up above Westview, looks around, and sees Agnes's car on the outskirts of town. Literally on the outskirts of town, because it's Ellis Avenue. And as he flies down, and then this, as we talked about earlier, he does his Mind Stone thing again, like what he did with Norm in the last episode. Brings Agnes back, and then Agnes is all like befuddled, confused, and is like, "Oh, you're an Avenger. You're here to help us." And things like that. And
what's an Avenger?
Vision's like, "What's an Avenger? Like, what do you mean?" And she's all like, "Are we like? Am I dead?" And he's all like, "No. Why would you think that? Because you are." Oh.
And then she goes,
Wanda's
dead.
Yeah, and then she just repeats "dead" over and over again.
And starts laughing.
It's like she had a glitch in her program.
Exactly.
Agnes.exe has stopped working.
Essentially, yeah. And then after Vision is like, okay, she needs to calm down. He's like, boom, puts her back into like the WandaVision state, and she's all like, oh, I'm just your neighbor. And then she turns her car around. She then turns her car around and heads back. Then we cut back to Vision and Pietro. Vision, god damn it.
No. Okay, well, before we go back, we should probably mention after Agnes turns her car around, and then Vision continues heading towards past Ellis Avenue, and to see what is beyond the beyond the town.
He goes to the absolute edge of the hex, which is what everyone calls it.
There's a line mentioned. I don't remember if it was earlier or a bit later. Is called, Wanda says, never go past Ellis Avenue. And so that's exactly what Vision is doing. And we'll just leave it off a cliffhanger there. All right, now let's cut back to Wanda and Pietro and the kids in Town Square.
Yep. So they're in Town Square. The party is going on. Very much so. The party is going on. And Pietro and Wanda have a friendly conversation about their parents, how they're dead, how they would have loved it there.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, because like I don't understand if Pietro is sort of how this is kind of complicated, gang. This show is but like I don't know how in tune Pietro is with the script that WandaVision has set for the show. So I don't know if he's asking this out of consciousness, or if Wanda actually wants like to talk the certain topic with him, because she has the power to bring him back to life. So
yeah, no, something that I've been thinking is that again, this is probably a huge stretch, but something that I've been thinking is that I believe that Wanda's subconscious created Pietro, or brought Pietro back, as a way of like her conscious trying to kind of like reassuring her that everything she's doing is fine. Because Vision is trying to convince Wanda and be like, it's like everything you're doing is not okay. You need to free these people. But Wanda's subconscious is like, hey, you're doing okay. It's okay. You're grieving. This is a way to grieve. And so she's kind of like at war with herself in a way. And so I believe that her subconscious brought Pietro into the world to balance out what Vision's been saying. Again, it's a stretch.
Yeah, this is only the second episode with Pietro in it. Well, first technically because he only had like 30 seconds in the previous episode.
He had one line.
Right. So yeah, we still are wondering why Pietro is here in the first place. So those are just like two food for thought things to think about and coming into next week's episode, I guess. But anyways, the actual substance that they're talking about here is...
It really is prominent that he is trying to get information out of Wanda. He says stuff like, I'm your brother, not your husband. You can talk to me. I'm here. I'm not a stranger. Things like that. So it does sound a little bit like he is trying to get information out of her. Why? Question for another episode to solve. But near the end of this conversation, we see another family-friendly image that Marvel loves to throw at us, where we see dead Pietro.
Right, because remember, gang, when we saw dead Vision in episode 4, just like it was his corpse walking, emphasis on the walking part, though. Basically, the same thing happens with Pietro, but you know, since he got recasted, it's not actually the thing. But
yeah, it's dead Evan Peters Pietro.
Right.
But it's the bullet holes and everything. It's very disturbing.
Right. Well, I guess in a sense, here's the thing that I'm now thinking about it, because he just looks like a zombie, and that fits perfectly within the Halloween episode. So I don't know if that was intentional or if it kind of loses its cool in that process. I don't know. This is just something that I thought about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and there's also something that I wanted to talk about, and I kind of forgot to, but I just want to bring it up now. Since it is the Halloween setting, there's like two aspects of there are two aspects of the horror genre, I guess. There's like the traditional sense of horror with jack-o'-lanterns, ghosts, orange and purple lights everywhere, and then there's like the actual, maybe more, I don't know how to describe it. It sort of like gets rid of all that things and only focuses on like the fear aspect of horror and not so much the sugar-coating commercialization of it, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, but those two are like both apparent.
I think what you're looking for is the more traditional things about Halloween and the more media shoved things about Halloween.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it.
Because because as you were talking, like the lights, the jack-o'-lanterns, all that stuff, that's like traditional Halloween things that we associate with Halloween. And then all the horror stuff is like zombies and like things like how you were saying that dead Pietro kind of looks like a walking zombie, like The Walking Dead and things like that. That's the more horror oriented things from like movies and things that we've kind of just associated with Halloween over the years.
Yeah, and both of those were present in this episode, and one scene in particular, remember the clothespin scene? That one felt like it was kind of a mesh of both. There's an aspect of fear, but also that sense of tradition in it as well. It's kind of funny, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that briefly before we continue on with the plot, and I forget about it.
Yeah, no, I get you. But after this dead Pietro part, I guess it's time we before we get into the sword stuff,
yeah, we should.
I think it's time. I think it's time for a little commercial break.
Oh yeah, what was the commercial break in this episode?
The commercial break in this episode was Yo Magic.
Huh?
Yo Magic is a yogurt type of thing, kind of like Danimals, or
Yo, Danimal
Danimals.
smoothies were like the best thing as a kid, but they suck as an adult because your hands grow bigger and the bottle grows smaller.
Yep. But like Danimals, Go-Gurt, like that kind of stuff. It's kind of a parody of that kind of thing. And it's done in stop motion. It's also the first commercial to not feature Wanda and Pietro's parents.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
The man and woman from every other commercial.
Yeah?
Did you ever notice how it was the same man and woman in every commercial?
Yeah.
It's because it's supposed to represent both their parents.
Really?
Yeah.
So, like, the same woman from episode 2 was also, like, in the commercial with the watch. That was also the same woman who was the housewife in the episode 3 commercial?
Yep. And
Really?
yep. It was in every commercial except this one. It has been the same man and woman.
I'm looking that up now.
Yeah.
So, wait, what do you mean this is supposed to signify Wanda and Pietro's parents?
So my take on it is that everything kind of circles back to Wanda and just herself. Like everything focuses around her. And because it's a reality that she's created, she brings in inspiration from outside forces. That's why in the first episode, the commercial of the toaster was a toaster from Stark Industries. That's why we have Hydra very prominent in the episodes 2 and 3 commercials. It's because she's pulling inspiration from her actual life experiences. And so because it's the same man and woman in every episode, and especially now that that Wanda and Vision, that Pietro has been bringing up her parents a lot more, and that she's been bringing up her personal life a lot more, it's just a thing of like, her parents are, this is a way of her kind of immortalizing her parents in a way.
Is this just a theory that's been spread about on the internet?
Yeah.
Or is this something of your thinking?
So that's my take on it, but the actual theory of the commercial people being Wanda and Pietro's parents is something that's been going around on the internet.
Okay, I guess that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I buy that.
There's also a theory that each commercial is supposed to represent a stone, like an infinity stone.
Really?
Yeah. The first one, the toaster one is supposed to represent the power stone. The second one is the watch one's supposed to represent the time stone. The third one, which one was the third one? What commercial was that? Hydra Soak. That one's supposed to represent the space stone. And then the towel one is supposed to represent the reality stone. However, I don't know which one Yo Magic is supposed to be.
That's what I was about to ask. It's like I can probably see something with the Infinity Stone resemblance, especially with the Hydra Soak one. That one's kind of interesting to think about. But then there's this Yo Magic thing. I was like, hang on a second, gang.
So Yo Magic kind of throws a loop in there with the whole Infinity Stone theory. But
I mean, that's something to think about. Again, these are just
food for thought.
Yeah, food for thought things that a lot of Marvel fans like to discuss about because they only like Easter eggs and they don't appreciate the actual plots.
Because Marvel is a religion.
Yeah, exactly. Marvel's a religion, gang. It's a secular religion that is let's just go with it.
Yeah, so Yo Magic, let's talk about the extra commercials now, shall we?
Julio.
Yo Magic has it shows a stop motion kid on an island, And he's like, I'm so hungry, I'm starving, things like that. Like I can't survive. And then out of the blue, a shark with a surfboard and sunglasses just pops out of the ocean. Is like, yo, dude, no, you don't need to die. Here's some yogurt. And then he's like, here's your yogurt, but like, be careful. Only survivors can eat this stuff. And then he just dips. And then the kid is then left there to try to open up the yogurt. And as he's sitting there trying to open up this yogurt, he can't open it. And so as he's trying to open it, he literally, in stop motion, he literally decays and becomes a skeleton. Like you see the entire decaying process that the kid goes through.
Yeah, and like discussing about the content of this, I was like, yeah, whoa, this is super funny. It's all claymation. It's all fun in the beginning, but as the commercial continues along, it starts getting creepy.
Yeah. And again, it ties back to the whole horror, like Halloween thing that we were talking about. How this one kind of showcases the more media oriented Halloween stuff, like the
the decaying skin and the skull. You know, I showing the skull of like a human skull does a lot more than you might think, actually.
So then like after his skeleton is just there, and then cuts to the like, it's like, yo, magic, the snack for survivors.
Which that kid definitely was not. It's like they probably just like super glued the lids onto their yogurts just for that to happen.
Honestly.
Alrighty then.
Well, that's the commercial. As disturbing as it may be. So now let's talk about Sword and what they do in this episode. So, in this episode, the first little scene of Swords that we have has Hayward leading a briefing, saying that, like, hey, they're evil. We need to, like, get rid of Wanda. We need to...
Bad guy is bad. Go stop.
Exactly. Essentially, yes. To dumb it down into very few words, that's literally what he says.
Right.
And Monica, Jimmy Woo, and Darcy are all against his idea. As for Monica, like Monica makes the case of like, hey, we don't know what's gonna happen if she dies. We don't know if everyone's freed. We don't know if it'll like explode. We don't know if it'll kill anybody else. We don't know. And she's also in defense of Wanda. She's saying that like, hey, Wanda's grieving. Wanda is in pain. She's not doing this in the right mindset. And Darcy and Jimmy Woo both agree with her. So here's what Hayward does. Kicks them off the base.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this last time. There's a sort of political conflict happening between Hayward and the other three. So like, because like the argument that like Wanda's grieving, she's hurt, and that's why we need to help her. And then Hayward's like the reasonable response to that would be, you know, I understand that you're grieving and you're hurt, but remember, like understandability does not equal justification. And so so that would be the, but you know, no, like this is what I'm getting at. That's not the answer that Hayward gives. So I feel like there's a bit more to what we're being given. So I don't think it's just I don't think Hayward is just some bureaucrat wearing a suit and tie just wanting to get some terrorist or what have you. I got it from the acting of the actor. So I think there is he has some personal ulterior motive to his doings. Mm-hmm. So we'll just have to see where that happens.
Some of his lines that he says is so as they're trying to defend Wanda, they constantly try to bring up like all the good she's done, like how she was part of the Avengers, how she helped fight against Thanos, how she helped save us all.
Right, but then again,
and
we haven't been shown do people still have a good retrospect of the Avengers, because everybody started losing their faith in them, like Age of Ultron and Civil War, and so they still might be living through those ramifications.
yes, but here's what Hayward says. Hayward, when they start discussing all this stuff, Hayward brings up all the things that Wanda did beforehand. He talks about how she was part of Hydra, even though she wasn't really doing that she wasn't really doing that for her own, like on her own will.
It wasn't her own will, right?
Exactly. But they talk about how she's a terrorist, how she like manipulated the Avengers, how she did all this bad stuff before she was part of the team. And things like that. The bombing in Lagos, he blames her for that. Even though Crossbones was the one who put the bomb there in the first place, and she was trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, but remember, the media's corrupt, gang.
Exactly. But something that I think about Hayward is that he definitely doesn't like superpowered individuals. He definitely does not care if superpowered individuals just die.
I see.
For example, and again, another thing that he says to Monica is, "You weren't here during those 5 years. You didn't have to endure what we did during those 5 years that you just snapped away."
That's right. I kind of forgot that there was a time skip in the middle of Endgame. So right, there technically were 5 years that we never did see. So there are probably 5 years of storytelling worth within that. So yeah, there might be that. That's why I'm saying there might be some personal ulterior motive of Hayward's that just was never seen before.
Yeah. And so that's kind of that's really the first sword scene in this episode. Is the briefing, and we see
also within that scene, Monica, Jimmy, and Darcy defect.
Yes, they do. And then in the second scene takes place right after the first sword scene, and we see Monica, Jimmy, and
I'm
Darcy.
sorry. That was the most stupidest thing I probably ever heard. The second sword scene goes after the first sword scene.
Okay. Yes, it does sound stupid like that. But in the second sword scene takes place after the first one.
Second one.
Well, yeah, but still.
Really now?
It's because we had a cut to the actual sitcom and then back. I'm sorry, I wanted to be specific. In this next part of the episode, we see Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy sneak their way back into the base. And Darcy hacks into the sword files and everything, and she just breaks firewall after firewall, getting deeper and deeper information until she eventually just gets stuck on Hayward's stuff. But some things that she does uncover is that this entire time, we probably thought that Sword, especially with the drone scene that happened last episode, we've probably came to the assumption that Hayward and Sword would be tracking Wanda, when in fact they're actually tracking Vision.
Yeah, which makes sense because Sword had Vision's body within custody before Wanda broke him out of there. So it makes sense that they'd have a tracker on him.
It does make sense that they would keep a tracker on that they would keep track of their stolen tech.
Right.
But the one thing that doesn't make sense to me is why wouldn't they be tracking the person who has created this alternate dimension? Why would they only be focused on Vision?
Well, remember
unless they had something else in mind.
They had custody of Vision for like 5 years, maybe. So they had all the time in the world to like dissect him or do stuff with his body, do whatever research, whatever.
Yes, but again, as Darcy says, it's not an actual tracker that they put on him or had in him. It was they're tracking the decay. They're tracking vibranium decay.
Oh, and he's made of vibranium.
Vibranium. I mean, yes, it does make sense that they would keep tabs on their stolen tech, but I just don't understand why they would also try to be tracking Wanda.
Well, were they or were they not?
They weren't tracking Wanda at all. They were only tracking Vision.
Okay, because I think because they didn't actually have... They weren't able to touch Wanda at all. That's why I think they couldn't track her.
Well, as we learned in this episode, they have the tech. They figured out how to actually get eyes into Westview. That's what they talk about once Darcy hacks into it. Is they talk about how they were actually able to get eyes into Westview, but they still aren't tracking anybody other than Vision. This is also when they notice about like how people away from Wanda are inanimate, they don't move, and if they do, it's very like small movements and very slow movements.
Well, wait, then if they know that, then they probably do know where Wanda is then.
Yeah,
because of that animate radius theory, like she's the Wi-Fi router basically. So they probably, I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Yeah, again, the sword scenes are really just here for flavored text and world building. The question of how efficient it does that is left to be determined.
Yeah, very much so. But as they're tracking Vision, they're like, "Hey, he's walking out towards the edge of Westview." And then they bring up the question of what would happen if he escaped, and what would happen if he escaped the breach and things like that. And Darcy, as we transition into the third sword scene, Darcy then brings up Monica's cellular change. How the test that came back showed that going in and out of the hex has changed her DNA on a molecular level. I can't speak.
Right. Yeah, molecular. Wow, I can't speak either. That is a hard word.
Science, techno, mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, science with the capital S trademark of the
And so they talk about how again this actually kind of supports my theory that I came up with last episode with Pietro, how Wanda's powers can both change people on the outside with their looks and their clothes, and also on the inside on a molecular level. And then Darcy, I believe it was Darcy who said that she had an aerospace engineer.
Like the only reason why Darcy would ever tell Monica these details because Monica was wanting to go back inside the hex for whatever reason.
Yeah, she was like, "I need to go back in there," and things like that. And Darcy's all like, "No, you can't." She's all like, "Why?
No, don't do that."
And just so yeah. And then Monica brings up that she has this guy waiting for them on like the outskirts of the hex. And they need to go, but Darcy's like, "I can't. I gotta break through this last firewall." And they're like, "Okay, just meet us when you can." And she's like, "Okay, I got you." And as this is happening, Vision is at the hex. He's at the wall of the hex, and he tries to break free. As he tries to breach the hex, the same alarms go off from when Monica was shoved out of the hex, where the whole breach alarms go off.
Yeah, the perimeter breach.
And he starts just pushing his way through.
Right, and it is a very intense scene. I think it was also shown off in the trailer of him trying the struggle to escape the prison that he's in. Is
the struggle and the pain.
Right.
Honestly, I gotta give props to Paul Bettany
Yes,
here.
it is very yes, Paul Bettany's acting is very well complemented with the cinematography and CGI of the scene. You can really feel the struggle of escaping imprisonment, I guess. I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys have that experience, but
hmm and I would love it. I would actually love to see like behind the scenes of this specific scene in particular, because I want to know if he had to like pantomime this like the breaking of the breach, or
bro,
if they actually had something for him to like push against.
literally scenes like this are just them walking awkwardly with a fan blowing in their face. That's literally all those scenes are.
Yeah, but still, the way that actors can make it work.
Yeah, well, I'm more complimenting the cinematography here. How well they get the camera angles to work to complement with the CGI effects.
hmm
But
Yeah.
anyways,
Anyways,
as Vision is breaching the perimeter, like parts of his body start to chip away.
yep. The farther he gets from the breach, because he gets a good few feet away from it. But as like the farther he goes, the more it's trying to just pull him in, even if it doesn't even pull him in one piece. It like because you see just like his like parts of his shoulders come off, his fingers come off, like things like that. And as you were saying, the CGI looks great.
Mm-hmm.
For this, the way it just chips off him. And all these sword agents, including Hayward, they're there. They're watching this happen. Are they doing anything? Nope.
No, like that, because that's the one thing that they don't understand. At least I think, is because Vision's dead, guys. And so basically, how that could be the ultimate significance why they showed that the molecular change in the bloodstream, and also why how we're talking about in these podcasts, how whatever goes into the hex, it changes the the production design of stuff or something like that, the production quality. I think since Vision is dead, technically, he could only sustain he could only sustain life within inside the hex. So as he kept escaping the hex, he was dying as he did so.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that makes the scene so great, is because it's not only a struggle of escaping imprisonment, it's also a death scene technically.
Yeah. But and so as Vision is literally dying, this is when it kind of cuts a little bit back and forth between Sword and Wanda for a little
The
bit.
sitcom plot, yeah.
And I'm gonna first. I think what would be best is just because there's more of the sword stuff near the end than there is of the sitcom. So I'll just briefly go over the sitcom stuff, and then I'll explain the rest of the sword stuff.
Yes.
If that's okay.
Yeah, that'll be, because I think the entire part of the climax here is all in 16:9 ratio. It's not because like the sitcom plot's still in its full screen, but I think this part was still in 16:9, so it all coincides within each other.
Yeah. And so in the sitcom plot, very quickly, what happens is Wiccan, aka Billy, starts hearing Vision's screams from outside the hex. And so what he does is he gets Tommy to run him to Mom. They get back to Wanda in the town square, and they're like screaming, "Mom, Mom, something's wrong with Dad," and things like that. And Wanda's like, "Okay, what's wrong? Like please just tell me." And Billy's like, "I can hear him screaming. I don't know where he is though." And so she's like, "Okay, well, like just focus and tell me where he is." So he focuses, and then he's all like, okay, he's outside of Westview. And she's all like, not on my watch. And then Pietro, this is one of my best moments from this episode, is Pietro then says, what? It's not like your dead husband can die twice. And then she just power blasts him into some hay or something. Like she just full on goes mom mode and just like I don't care if you're my sibling, bam. Just straight up.
Don't you
Just
dare talk
like,
to my husband like that.
she didn't even waste this. Like, it wasn't even a second after he got out
no
that line. Like, as soon as he said it, she just bam. And then so then what Wanda does is Wanda focuses, and then we cut back to Sword. So when we cut back to Sword, we then see Darcy running out. As this is happening, Darcy runs out of hiding from inside the computer room, and she's like, "Help him! Why aren't you saving Vision? Like, help him!" And I think there is a. I think that them not saving Vision is on purpose. I don't think it was them. I don't think it was them like questioning like what's going on. I think Hayward knows what's going on. Hayward just doesn't. This is again one of those moments where I think that Hayward just doesn't care if superpowered beings die, because then he, in his mind, he's like, that's one less that we have to worry about.
Gotcha.
And so that's why he doesn't give the order for the soldiers to go and help him, because they could have easily just picked up Vision and thrown him back in.
True.
Because he is physically there. It's not like a hallucination. Like, his body is physically there. They could have easily just picked him up and thrown him back in.
Yeah, or they could have taken him back for themselves, because like that could have been the entire point of the mission, on paper at least, was retrieving Vision back from Wanda.
Mm-hmm. Because Hayward says like, "Hey, Wanda stole him from us." So then you would think like, "Oh, okay, they want him back," but they don't do anything. They don't take him back. They don't put him back in. Hayward never gives the order for them to do anything with Vision. They just stand there and watch him decay and die. I forgot.
Was Hayward there in the front lines with the other soldiers?
He was.
Okay.
I don't know how far forward he was. He wasn't too terribly far forward, but he was definitely there on the field watching him die.
Okay.
As Darcy came out running. So Darcy comes out running, and then then Hayward gives the order to like detain her. So then one of the sword agents comes over and handcuffs her to the hood of one of their trucks. And then this is when the stuff that Wanda was doing in the hex. Wanda's then like, okay, bet, and she moves the hex. The hex then expands and becomes whiter. Yay! And so as they notice that it's growing whiter, they all start getting into trucks, and they all just start driving away as fast as they possibly can.
They have to abandon their headquarters that they made there.
Yep. And so the headquarters becomes a funhouse. Some of the sword agents that didn't make it into some of the vehicles on time, that were trying to run away on foot, then became clowns inside of the funhouse. Darcy got sucked in, but we never see what she becomes. We just see that the base becomes a funhouse. Some of the sword agents become clowns and other acts that you would see in a circus. And one of the helicopters becomes a hot air balloon and things like that.
Yeah, I wonder what the theme of the next episode is going to be.
Ooh, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
But that happens. The people that escape, or at least the important people that escape, are Hayward, Monica, and Jimmy.
Okay, yeah, I was about to ask if they had survived that or not.
Yeah, no, they are all able to escape. And that closes out the episode. It basically leaves us on a cliffhanger.
Wanda took over New Jersey, gang.
Basically. And so that's the end of it.
Yeah, and that's
boy,
where the
do I have
episode
some
ends.
theories.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where the episode ends, and that's where the Disney Plus credits roll.
Do you have any thoughts on this episode? Any final things you want to say? Talk about?
Well, let's see. That was the end of episode 6, and so that means we only have 3 weeks left of WandaVision, gang. So we'll have episode 7 next week, episode 8 on the 26th, and then episode 9 on March 5th. We are coming close. This is the home stretch, gang.
Woo!
Yeah, so basically, like like I said in the very beginning, I figured that the show would go with the formula of each episode will have its own misadventure plot, but at the same time there will be an overarching mystery element to the entire thing until it gets to climax. The climax is coming, folks. The climax is almost here, and we'll just have to see what they do next, because now that the hex has expanded to presumably, let's say, a good chunk of New Jersey, maybe just a little bit, maybe just like, you know, like that Long Island of New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny, I looked up where West Haven, New Jersey was, and it's actually on the east side of New Jersey, so oops. But besides the point, now that the hex has expanded, we're gonna be getting, like, stakes are getting bigger, and this is what happens in a climax when stakes get bigger, and yeah, that's all. The stakes get bigger, and the audience is left more and more in their seat as to what's going to be coming next week. But yeah, that's all I have to say about WandaVision episode 6. We thank you for tuning in to watching our WandaVision review, episode 6 review and synopsis podcast. Make sure you're watching WandaVision streaming exclusively on Disney Plus. I think you already knew that though, gang, because it's episode 6 and we only got 3 more episodes left. So, anything else, Brian? And want to say goodbye or anything like that?
Just thanks for sticking around this long. Thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your day.